Hopefully you're having a great day today. So I'm just gonna go hit the gym right after this. I actually just saw my wife leave. She is like, "I'll see you at the gym." It's getting later, but I wanted to still jump on here, do a live session, and do some quick market overviews for you guys. Do some breakdowns. If you have any ticker symbols you'd like me to review, feel free to comment them in the chat. It does help if you also share that's that you're looking at in the stock. Is it the financials? Is it the news? Is it the technicals? Whatever it may be, it really is something that can be helpful. Before we jump into tickers, I'm going to do a few of my own. There's this stock that I've been covering for a while. It's called CTM stock. It's at this resistance, or sorry, support, and it has this gradual build of market cap. We can see that it's been really continuing to build the market cap over the last really 6 months. And they continue to have this consistent trend. They just sold down to this support, and then now they're starting to see some upward direction, a little bit bounce at the support. If we kind of jump down here to the 1 hour, kind of get a better look there. You can see that validation there. So we've been watching it. We've seen it sell down. We've kind of patiently watched it. Last time we traded it, there's no fear involved or anything, but we ended up having to manage some risk on a short-term trade. But to disclose, I have a long-term position over in CTM. So if you aren't familiar with the company, it's worth a look, at least seeing increased institutional ownership and also seeing some big companies. You got Vanguard, don't have a huge position from BlackRock, but they've seen some increased institutional interest. And on top of that, they've had some contracts that have been notable. One of the things that was a catalyst for them was this IDIQ contract. So once they got on-demand servicing for the government for defense, they've seen a large increase in the amount of revenue. They have done some public share offerings, which is quite normal. You're going to see smaller cap companies in the hundreds of millions, sometimes even billions, raise money to essentially get some more cash on their balance sheet. And you can see they have a public offering there of common stock. What we saw with their financials was interesting, right? We saw increased revenues. You look at the annual revenues, they've really kind of increased year over year. Then they get into the balance sheet. The debt's been staying fairly low while their assets have been rising. So it's one we've been watching. So yeah, Oasis Plus contracts means they're on demand for the government with no ceiling value. They shortly after getting that Oasis Plus IDIQ contracts granted there, you got a $100 million contract there for what was Navy, and it was basically surveillance and cybersecurity related. And Jason's like, can we just start over? Jason, I saw an email that you sent me earlier today. You said watch list. I'm not exactly sure what it is that you meant, if you were sending me stocks or what have you. And then I see that we got some other comments here. It looks like Nalsir is in the UK and it's 3 a.m. and he is still tuning in. That is absolutely that is a very amazing thing to do, man. That you're tuning in at 3 a.m. I just know that sleep, nothing cures anything like a good night of sleep. So do keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to CTM, you see that recovery. That's why we're watching it. We're looking for this margin of profit, this recovery potential, back up into these levels here. You know, a lot of times we've seen this gradual market increase, this swing happen between this 87 to $1 price point and this $1.20, even as high as $1.70 range up here. And we're looking for this move right here. First, it's about a 20% margin for profit. And then if we see things start to take off, potentially at this point, we'll be watching it. It would be up to about a 70% margin for profit if they continue to build their market cap. So that's something we'll definitely be watching. Now, then we got Corey says, what do you think about AMD? I'm very pleased with AMD. We've got a 40 bill of percent increase there on AMD stock. AMDL 49%. These are the types of trades that are kind of rare. Last year we made 109% on our portfolio, but this far into 2025 and even nearing the triple digit percentage, I mean, these are the types of trades that help us get there. Those AMD swings. AMD stock is part of the reason why there's such an undervalued play in AI is because of their technology that they are creating for the infrastructure of AI. They do data centers, they are building out a large number of new products that not only are being used by the biggest tech companies in the world, but as of recently, they've also seen some growth in space tech as they provide the chips for Starlink, which I think is one of the most underrated things that's not talked about AMD, that is one of the main catalysts that would make sense for them to recover really back to all-time highs. Now, you can see some articles here, some hype articles, so you got to be careful. One thing here, you got what AMD and super microcomputer stock investors should know. Essentially, we just see changes in the price. There's this big surge as of recently with AMD. The stock's up about 10% in the last 5 days, and it's been upgraded to buy by a lot of analysts with targets of about $175 and $165. The revenue growth is up 35% year over year. If I'm not mistaken, that's what we saw for the revenue growth. And also, let's take a look at their 35% revenue year over year. That's tremendous. We were seeing their net income quadruple quarter or double quarter over quarter, up 476%. So it makes sense that they're able to make that run back into previous highs. Now, what does that look like from a chart perspective? It looks like, well, look at this. We see this breakout continue. They're back above $140 a share. And we're looking for the next target here at $170. It's really what we're looking for. Now, one thing to kind of just overall preface with the market, never do I trade or invest with fear. You know, a lot of times as long as we have a plan in place, and confidence is on our side, that's one of the most important things when investing. You know, outside of those things, you're not going to feel stable. You're not going to feel secure. You're not going to make good decisions. So it's important to be, confident. But when it comes to AMD, I would imagine that we could see this move take place. It's about a 60% continuation up in the previous highs, about $224 a share. We've been saying it for a while. In fact, one of the things that we could find out, well, nobody was really talking about this. I don't know if this is something that people realize, but if we go search AMD and Starlink on Google, our videos here are really the main videos talking about this, and they only have, I'm very grateful for our viewership, but we have some videos that get 20,000 views or something like that, and these videos only have 1,000 views. And I remember making these videos about AMD and just thinking it's interesting how, such little attention is being given to AMD when there's so many reasons. I love how they're referencing our content for the AI generations. That's pretty cool. That's cool. I love to see that. That's really cool. But it's so versatile in all of the directions that they're going. So they have a lot of potential for this to take place from a lot of different avenues. And the financials speak for themselves. Now, on top of that, one thing that we were talking about in our live session this morning is we didn't want to force any trades. So a lot of times in StockMate, we're almost every morning at market open, usually sometimes even 2 trades in a day, sometimes in the morning. And what we were talking about this morning, I don't know if this is going to be the key, but you definitely have some, you have some interesting things happening here, which is rate cuts is on hold. And of course, you got Trump demanding the cuts. He's been calling Powell dumb. It seems to be interesting because, you got the Federal Reserve, not a government agency, so you can't fire anybody at the Federal Reserve, which then Also, kind of with the inflation data that we had come out, you could see also some other articles on the inflation data that the PCE inflation rate, the data, it's been upcoming, and the markets are we're anticipating about 117 basis points in cuts by 2026. But Powell is urging caution on the rate cuts. In fact, it seems that they could potentially even hike rates, which with the market direction we're seeing, it's possible the momentum continues, but that is something that could potentially cause some turbulence in the near term. So that's just something we got to consider as well. When it comes to the comments section, I see Moheen says, Will, how are you? What do you think of AMD? I'm doing fine myself. I have a great a great day ahead of me and behind me. We were working. You can see some progress on the kitchen behind me. I'm not stopping up once we get this place done. This apartment that we have here to then rent it out would be excellent. So that's where we're at. Things are going good. Have some trades that have been going fairly well recently. Doing well. You say, how do you think AMD is for a long-term price target? Yeah, I would consider AMD to be really valuable with potential to reach those $200 ranges. We'll have to see from there, but that's kind of the way I approach it and why we trade it on its way up. So we'll be continuing to trade it for sure. All right, next stock we got one other one actually I wanted to cover really quick before I cover this one that was recommended, CLBR. Let's take a look at that one. Just want a quick overview on the quantum market. After hours, you see push-ups from IonQ. See push-ups from Rigetti. You got push-ups. Bless me, sorry. From QBTS. And those are after hours. We've still been watching a lot of the quantum market and seeing these levels. A lot of the price targets we have are fairly bullish for RGTI and I believe IonQ as well, which is still holding this level. For QBTS, we're a little more bearish, so we did kind of look for this sell-off here to continue, as it kind of has, down to $14. But the quantum market is not a small piece of what could be the future of AI. I think we're going to see a lot more potential in AI, a lot more growth in AI from other sectors, but quantum is definitely one of the main players that most people don't talk about that I think would be a huge addition to the computing power that's required for the AI boom that we're in. So we'll definitely be watching that closely. Moheen says, I'm thinking of $300 to $400 on AMD. Quite possible. You're first to pop up because you're real, unlike most YouTubers. I appreciate that. I find everybody, well, actually, I can't say everybody's real. Some of them are even AI. Yeah, I think most of those YouTubers that like hype stuff up, they're basically good people. They just are figuring out how to best serve their audience. And they'll probably find through time that's the best way to do that will be to focus on quality, focus on stocks that are good, and also operate your business with integrity. It's funny how far operating with integrity can go. There was this one video that I don't think it was even the main video. It was like a short little piece of a video months ago, 6 months ago, where I informed you guys. I said, hey, I don't take on sponsorships from companies I don't have integrity with. This company called Moo that you see everywhere on YouTube, I checked. They offered me a lot of money, like a lot of money to promote them on here. And I said, yeah, let me take a look. And I went into their brand, and there was people not being able to withdraw money. There was a lot of things that really compromised the integrity of the brand. And I thought, I'm not going to cover this stock. And I mentioned it. Some guy, Johnny, I was talking to him today. He's a consulting client of mine. He said, one of the reasons that I really enjoy the analysis we go through and learning here how to invest in quality companies is because I didn't take that sponsorship deal. I thought that's so funny. I didn't even think about like how that could impact the way that people want to consume more content and things like that. I was just like telling you guys what's up, but I'm glad that was impactful. Yeah, so here's what we got. This is the one we said we go over. Zen Happiness says, curious for your thoughts on CLBR. CLBR says SPAC that will be turning to ticker PEW soon. He says Trump Jr. is on board. Lots of sentiment that this thing will run like crazy. All right. First of all, the stock's seen tremendous manipulation. You see this right here? That's, let me pull up the definition of a pump and dump. Oh, there it is. Just kidding. Kind of. But you do see some serious volatility and a push up. You see a big market cap build as of recently. But let's just take it at face value. CLBR stock. $277 million market cap. Quarterly net income has been decreasing quarter over quarter and then reported negative March 2025. Balance sheets with more liabilities than assets. You see that? So they're net negative. Their cash and short-term investments are down about 43% year over year. Liabilities have increased more than that of their assets. Financials just lead me to believe that it's not a company we look at. But let me take a look at, what's it called? CLBR. It's an acquisitions company. Take a look at what they focus on from a product perspective. What is their service? Grab a gun investor presentation, mobile focused online. All right. Yeah, it just doesn't do it for me. Yeah, nothing there. Governance, management. Yeah, I'm good. Think so. Appreciate it. I appreciate the thoughts. But yeah, do you see kind of like the volatility? So like one way to look at it is, yeah, it's rising up, and then you look at it, but just look at the potential downside if it does what it's done in the past, where it's shot up and sold down to where it was before. We'd be looking at this sell down to here. It's about a 21% drawdown, and that upside, there's no real catalyst that we could see other than potentially having a name link to it, like you said. So I personally wouldn't pursue it. Okay, someone says, if you had to choose between CTM and Cisco, what would it be? Yeah, let's take a look at that. I'm actually not familiar with Cisco, Mohit, so let me take a look. CISO, sorry, I know Cisco, but CISO stock. Market cap 36 million, so very small. Let's take a look at their financials. Quarterly revenue has been around 7 or 8 million with a net income. They're just negative. Let's take a look at their annuals. Volatile. EBITDA is up 49%. Looks like they had some declining total assets, while their liabilities have failed to stay down proportionally. So just from a financial perspective, I'll show you. Let me show you the difference between CTM. So we got CTM there, and here we got CISO. This is great. So do you see how CTM has very consistently higher revenues, and their net income stays much more negative? See that difference? CTM stocks on the right, and then you got CISO on the left. So the annual, you see how volatile it is, and then you got big negative net incomes. You see that? So let's take a look at the annual. See the annual on CTM, gradual increase of revenue. They're operating business and they're getting more contracts. They're building out their market cap, and then you have over here, this is like not as consistent. See that? Then let's just take a look at the balance sheet down here. Compare the balance sheets. You see how 2020 had a big spike up to 2022, total assets 104 million, and then and it drops down. You see that? Pretty volatile. See how there's this gradual increase year over year annually in the total assets on CTM. You see that? And then their total assets at an all-time high, while their liabilities didn't increase as much. So their total assets went up 25%, while their total assets, total liabilities went up 2%. And then over here on CISO, the one that you proposed, their total assets went down 48%, and their total liabilities only went down 28%. So essentially, like in whichever direction up or down you go, you're going to want the total assets to not move down or up. You're not down as much as total liabilities. And also you want assets to go up more than that of the liabilities. That's just healthy. So you want to probably look for those things from a balance sheet perspective. That's why. That's the difference. So we're just kind of going for more value there. They're also into defense contracts. So I don't know what CISO does particularly, specifically what their focus is, but hopefully that helps for like an overview of like the financials of why we go with CTM there. So that's kind of the round. But let me take a look at the chart real quick. CISO Global. This is for Moheen. Yeah, you know, same thing. You got this fault. You have some manipulation there, which isn't a big deal because it's such a small market cap, but still, see that right there? Just not really consistent enough. You've definitely seen some pumps in the past. You see this back here. It's not really a good sign when you see that manipulation. So that's why I would stay away from that CISO personally. But hey, we're going through a lot of stocks that are like not good. Not to throw any shade, I actually really respect you guys doing your research. And I know it's really hard to tell sometimes. And again, I could be wrong, you know. Sometimes companies like that, they are building really real world value, and I don't have that information. It could come down to my information. Yeah, and that's just information I was able to uncover in a short amount of time. Corey says, hey, Mr. Rich. You don't have to call me Mr. Rich, but thank you, sir. Do you see a pattern on NUTX? I recently entered. Looks like a bump coming highly. Yeah, we'll take a look. NUTX. Let me move through these as well. Google Class A. What do you think? Would love to take a look. Moheen says Quantum has got some breakthroughs with Google. Yeah, I agree. Faith, Love, Peace. You got $6 is a steal of a deal for that stock. Okay. And now Sear says OST, please. Will with the heart. Love you, man. Appreciate it. Hello, Goats Pro. Just call me the goat. That's fine. Thanks, Will. And then someone OST had some crazy stuff about it on Reddit. Okay, we'll take a look. We'll take a look. Will you ever cover eVTOL's Archer? We have covered Archer. The problem with Archer was the financials, and also the lack of deployment of their product. So really good example would be like Lucid. There was this time when Lucid was like, everybody was talking about it as being like the competitor with Tesla or something like that. And I remember saying like, there's two ways to validate a market, right? You have the profits and the potential growth, but then you also have the actual real world usage, which is the number one indicator. It's how you validate a market. It's like, why did NFTs like become way less popular? And they were really hyped up at one point. It's because there was millions, no, billions of dollars that was being used with the NFTs. But the actual usage, the real world usage and how people are using it, it wasn't sustainable. It was just trading. And it wasn't real value. It had some value, but it wasn't being used to the degree that would validate it as a real world market. Same thing with Lucid. Lucid had all these prototypes and it was rallying and just sold down. It was like one big pump and dump, right? So, and manipulation here and there because the deployment of their product just took forever. It just didn't come out. So that's why like Archer could potentially see the deployment of the product. And I think that's excellent. But if they don't see that, then I wouldn't touch it. Does that make sense? Like you could speculate, you'd be like, it could grow. But what would you rather do? Buy a company where there's like a few things that aren't for sure, or buy a company when like everything's lining up for sure? Like what would you rather do? Would you rather buy something that's like a couple things look really, really cool, but there's like one or two things that like are almost deal breakers, but you're like, buy that? Or everything looks really cool and there's no deal breakers? Which one would you do, right? So you want to invest in things that, in my experience, the best investments will be like all the way down to the value, the intrinsic value, the actual integrity, the foundation of the stock is good. Even for short-term trades, that's how we do it. There's very rare occurrences where we'll trade short-term things that aren't intrinsically valuable. but it's very rare. It's very, very rare. So love the comments, and again, you guys have some good ones. So uh, let's take a look here. So let's take a look at the great one you guys. Someone said it was IMO. No, that's in my opinion. That's not a ticker symbol. OST. That's what it was. All right, we'll take a look here. OST. Pull up the chart and let's go over the financials. OST. I've heard of this one. Austin Technology Group. $970 million market cap. Quarterly revenues, okay. A little bit of a drop off in December, but kind of consistent. Annual, seeing decreases in revenue. EBITDA is up a little bit. Balance sheet is consistent on the quarterly. Annual, it's down a little bit with liabilities still up. Like their assets decreased 9% while their liabilities went up. So financially, it's not bad. It's really not bad. Not too bad. But let's take a look at the chart. Yeah, this looks kind of familiar. Does this kind of look like Lucid? You guys see that? So we won't be covering it. So do you understand, like RSI MACD, it's oversold or overbought for sure, but do you understand where it's like the financials are not there? And unless I'm missing something, was there like a specific, you said there was some crazy stuff on OST stock. Was it like, what was the news? Was there a product development? They have this OS therapy stock. They had positive feedback on a new treatment that they were doing, and it was estimated over about a $500 million potential in the market. And they were end of phase 2. They have a meeting on it in Q3 of 2025, which is coming up. So they have a meeting on it, but they don't have any contracts or anything that would show that. It says it could unlock $155 million FDA voucher if that OST, it's called HER2, claims to be something they'll use as it's in late stage trials for what seems to be pediatric cancer drugs. But overall, there wasn't a real contract that was tied to that value. Does that make sense? So still not really seeing the real world, like close, but yeah, that's kind of why we'll be there. With the, I would not buy, that's kind of the way that we look at it. We would not buy it. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Thank you. Someone said, all right, Will, let's take a look at Google. And someone says, is QBTS going to pump again? All right, we'll take a couple looks there. We also got Adobe from there. You got Mike saying, take a look at APLD. Absolutely. Reddit's apparently a scam stock on OSC. Yeah, I mean, I personally, it looked like it. I wouldn't invest the farm. What are your thoughts on Circle Internet Group? All right, so we'll go into INTZ, which I think we've covered before. There's a reason I don't cover it, but I continue to jump into it. Once again, okay, guys, this is crazy how many pump and dumps I'm getting shared. Maybe, okay, and I mean that with all respect. Like, I appreciate you guys participating, but do we, like, have we had, like, we started off with, like, AMD and, like, everything is pumps. Like, are you guys trolling me right now? Is someone saying, like, let's comment? Oh, all right, INTZ. We'll double check the financials to see if anything has changed. You guys are just gonna start commenting pumps, are you? All right, market cap $46 million. You got they're raising capital, which is normal. Quarterly income statement sees slight increase in revenue, but much more on their net income. Their balance sheets sees a lot of volatility. It looks like they just finally got their balance sheet looking better, actually, in 2024. They just finally got their balance sheet looking better, really. That's actually not a bad last quarter. You can see they really balanced out the liabilities. They paid them down. They're about half of their total assets. It's starting to look better. So that's good. But the quarterly income statement, same thing. Starting to see some increases. So I am curious. It makes me curious, actually, about the real world value. let's take a look at Intrusion Inc. and see what their main thing is. Applied threats intelligence, expose malicious traffic, other solutions miss, uncover the network's biggest threats. Okay, great. So internet security, cyber security, no baselining, no traffic there. Why intrusion? See the unseen. Secure your network. You need to see everything. Global threat engine powers everything we do. Account of the internet, manual analysis, behavior. Hey, I like it. I like the tech because cybersecurity is absolutely going to be a big deal as just the more, like, if there's a few industries that are solid, cybersecurity would be one of them. Let's take a look at their products. They got on-premise network protection, threat hunting and consulting. Okay. Hey, actually not looking too bad. I'm starting to like it a little bit just on that side. But the past manipulation is real. Do you see that? Like, so I would look for improved financials that really justify a surge or some catalyst that would really indicate why they would go up. INTZ there. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So we'll get into APLD here in a second for Mike. We'll take a look. And then before we do, we had a shout out from Matthias on QBTS. So let's take a look. QBTS. We did a little bit of coverage at the beginning of the video, but here's what we got going. This stock has seen a unprecedented surge up to $20 a share. One of the things I noticed, I was walking into the Phoenician in Phoenix. We just got off a flight. We were at the D-Wave QBTS event, and I remember walking in one of the nicest hotels, and they did a great job booking that hotel for the event. And we go in, we get all settled in our room, and when we arrive at the conference, we're seeing the actual marketing that they have there. I remember thinking the number one word that I was asking while I was at the conference that I failed to really get answered was compared to what? That's what I was saying. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to jump into their technicals here, or not their technicals, D-Wave. Advantage 2 system. So I just want you to think about this word, compared to what? The Advantage 2 system, our most advanced and performant quantum computer. Okay. Then they say, quantum realized. D-Wave has developed a clear framework that deflates the hype, helping you develop an informed position on quantum. Okay. Unlike quantum systems that are years away from practical use, D-Wave's annealing quantum computing technology is ready for real-world applications today. Okay, that's fine. They've actually changed some of the wording recently. Some of the things that I've heard, or at least at the events, and I think there was some lawsuits around some of the claims that were being made. Here's something here. And I have to be careful in that, I'm not someone that is trying to create drama around the company. In fact, like I said, I was there, I went to it, I was able to meet the executives, the CEO. It's not like I'm just spewing information, looking at this and being like, here's what I think. Okay, I get it that could be the place a lot on YouTube, but like I've seen a lot of their tech. I've sat through days of presentations from them showing their tech, and the only thing that I was wondering is I found it to be valuable and exciting that they're working on the technology. I do. The thing that was a little bit unclear was the benchmarks they were using when comparing their quantum computers to classical. So one thing they say here, they're solving complex optimization problems, advancing research, and exploring quantum AI. what problems could you solve with access to the largest quantum computers in the world? So they've changed some of the wording actually, but what they used to say is our they've actually changed the wording, but they used to say our quantum computers are solving problems that GPUs cannot, or our quantum computers are solving problems that GPUs could never think of solving, or stuff like that. Disruptions, they've changed their wording. I'll have to look at my previous videos actually, and I'm actually very glad they did. I don't know if they watched my videos, what it is that they saw, but they changed their wording, and I'm very proud of them actually. Some of the wording they used to use was like, we are 10 times more powerful than any other computer that would normally take like millions of clusters of GPUs, is what they would say. But they've changed the wording actually to be more of integrity, because one of the things that I saw when I was there was the comparison between D-Wave to GPUs, and how they were saying that they were much more powerful in solving problems. But the benchmarks, I was like, is it how many GPUs? Is it one GPU? Is it the new NVIDIA GPUs? Is it 10-year-old GPUs? Is it an entire data center? What is the benchmark? Like, how much of a computer are they comparing it to? You know, that's what I wanted to know. And luckily, we were able to get it. So someone says, let's move on. So I get it. It's not always the most interesting, but I actually want to camaraderie D-Wave for making their marketing actually very transparent. Now they've changed it and they have some more diagrams and things like this. I'm excited to jump back in and do some more analysis on D-Wave. So basically what we're looking at, they recently, let's take a look at their financials, QBTS. They're a $4.4 billion company. They have revenues in the levels of about 15 million a quarter in that last quarter, or sorry, yeah, quarterly. And net income was negative. They were able to get 15 million in that quarter, most likely because of their sale of their quantum computer. But overall, they've averaged around 2 to 3 million a quarter. So from a financial perspective, they're not bad, you know, but for a $4 billion valuation, they're bad. I mean, but from like looking at how they manage their financials, seeing the quarterly increases in their balance sheet on assets, and seeing them rise 500% in total assets up to 325 million, I think a valuation of around 2 billion would make a lot more sense, and that would actually put them down back around here in this, you know, $8 to $9 range. And this is actually the overall trend we were identifying, which was this build of market cap. And so that would put them back down around $10 a share. And that's actually where I've seen as to be more realistic. And someone says, Will, what are your thoughts on Martin Shkreli saying quantum will go to zero? I don't know who that is, but quantum going to zero seems highly, highly unlikely. If the whole stock market were to go to zero, then quantum would not be the first to go to zero. I'll tell you that. No, I mean there's a tremendous amount of reasons why that research will be. I mean, sure, if you're not thinking 5 years ahead and we said price everything in for real world value right now, they wouldn't even go to zero now, but like 5 years from now is what we're talking about. Quantum's going to be most likely, if they're doing trapped ions, they're manipulating electrons and they're doing calculations based on frequency of atoms. I would imagine that's going to be the 5-10 years down the road type of computers that humanity is going to be really grateful for. Personally, that's how I see it. So I don't know. $0. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't see it. I'll be holding some shares, so I can't go to zero, but I'll take your shares. Just kidding, but I will actually. Um, Adobe is solid, someone says. Let's take a look at Adobe. We got a couple call outs for Adobe, so let's take a quick look. Someone says, I think quantum computing is a couple years away from being marketable. It is marketable, as we've seen. I mean, QBTS surged to $20, and they are really great at marketing. So I would say they are market. I don't know if you mean maybe in what way you mean. And Matthias says, thanks for the attention. Well, absolutely. One of the things we were talking about in our live session this morning was quantum and the different companies that we find to be the most valuable. When we've seen this market cap increase on a lot of these companies, there's been gradual increases and there's been overextensions. And some of the overextensions did take place back here in May. It was expected to see pullbacks. Now we're kind of seeing how the market reacts for quantum over the next few weeks, which should be really interesting. Cool. Friendly reminder, if you guys want to join us in our market live session, I left a code in the description for you. One thing that we have inside of StockMate, aside from a free t-shirt that I'll send to you anywhere in the world, which I'd love for you to be able to sport, is our targets. This week was a little quieter for the targets, but we have some earnings here that we've had targets for this week. And also we got group members there. You get daily live trading, which is happening in 10 hours at market open. And you also get about 70 plus lessons on technical, fundamental analysis, and everything you need in order to understand investing in AI, quantum, space stocks, or whatever market it is that you choose to invest in. So I'd encourage you guys, check the second link below if you haven't already. There's also some great resources and a custom profit plan that's hand-tailored for you and crafted for you as soon as you join on the thank you page. So I'd encourage you to take a look there down below. Now, Adobe, let's take a look. There's this gradual market cap build. And I want to ensure here, it looks like there's a gradual market cap build happening among the AI sector. I think Adobe has had some tremendous changes in as of recently because of AI. They were the leader in AI there for a little bit, but what do we see? ChatGPT came in and you can generate any image. Photoshop is changing. I can upload a photo. I mean, do you guys want me to show you? I can upload a photo and say, put an orange hat on this image and it will put an orange hat on me. I don't need to Photoshop it anymore. So Adobe has that. You have the PDF stuff. ChatGPT is doing PDF. Now, the overall trend with Adobe is down. It's pretty oversold. And Adobe's still a very strong player in tech. So I think that from a risk perspective, it looks very undervalued from risk perspective. This is the type of swing, a 78% swing to previous highs. But just to kind of preface with the change in the market, let's take a look at their financials real quick and see what that looks like. You got $165 billion company, quarterly revenues holding around 5.3 billion with increasing up to 6 billion. Really steady growth. Actually not seeing any decline at all. Their net income is up 2% year over year. So net income down just a tad. Really, you'd like to see it bigger. And the balance sheet's good. But one thing to note, and this is kind of what I was saying, is like, I could be wrong, but when we look at this, like, do you see how the revenue's kind of tapping out up top? Like, it only increased $1 billion, but their total liabilities increased $3 billion. That's usually a sign of a little bit of a stalled growth. Even look at that in the last quarter, it's kind of like quarterly, it's like kind of declining. Let's not forget about cap cuts. A lot of people use Adobe Premiere to edit videos. Many people are now using CapCut because there's a lot of AI integration. Someone says, besides being an evil company. Personally, I had a experience with Adobe when I was young. Must have been 17, 18, where I had canceled multiple times a video editing. It was Adobe Premiere, and they continued to charge me, and I became very upset. And I called them and I canceled, and they wouldn't refund me. They said, we'll give you an extra 3 months or something. And I said, no, please cancel it. And they did charge me again. And I ended up having to like change my card or something like that, which I was a less responsible young man there. But hey, regardless, I found that I think I was operating pretty legit at that point, and they were charging me. I didn't like the company at the time. Ever since then, I've never liked really Adobe. Actually, it's quite funny. I always opt for like alternatives. Isn't that hilarious? But yeah, I mean, from that's also kind of maybe a bias I have, why I think they're kind of declining and they might continue to decline. Maybe you guys have another perspective on Adobe as well. All right, so we got a nice real estate rescue podcast says, you take a look at QNCCF. I would love to, and I also have to hit the gym. So what we'll do, and I really appreciate the $5. Thank you so much. And I would love to serve you and get you some analysis. And then Pro said OPTT. I would love to take a look as well. Let me just write these down, and I will do a morning live session tomorrow, and I can get you guys an analysis. I got 5 minutes. Let me just do it actually right now. I'll do it right now. Let's do it. It's not that I don't respect that you commented. I really do want to do the analysis, but it is getting later, and I still got to go to the gym. So let me go ahead and do it. Any further recommendations though, guys, we will catch in the next video. Quantum Emotion Corp. Looks like they're at $1.29, and they've had some growth as of the last day, up 17%. Let's pull them up. What is it? QNCCF. All right, QNCCF. I don't see it here. Did they change their ticker symbol or something? Are they not available there on Robinhood? Interesting. I'll do a quick analysis here. Quarterly, net income's increasingly negative. You see that? They had net profit margins down, balance sheet volatile, with quarterly total assets did surge to 12 million, but overall pretty volatile over the last few years, but not looking too bad over the last 2 years. You see that steady increase the last 2 years, which is not too bad. Let's take a look. It's called Quantum Emotion, and they specialize in Emotions Francis Bolito on building backbone of Quanta Era. SentryQ platform. They have digital health. They're chip based on quantum tunneling, which is going to be a form of quantum computing. And the other thing is the quantum crisis, why CEOs must prepare. Okay, that's interesting. And then you have Quantum Emotion tapes out first QRNG chip with TSMC for scalable. Okay, interesting. So they got they're using a new chip that delivers 1 gigabytes a second of quantum randomness, suitable for cybersecurity and Internet of Things devices. And the chip demand is projected to reach 2 billion. Yeah, I think it's much more over that. Okay. They did just do a financing recently, about 12 million. So from a news perspective, doesn't look too bad. Some of their customers are notable for them, but I don't know who they are. Foundation for High Quality Security and Quantum Safe Future Communication. Then they have an AI generated picture of a quantum computer. Financials don't add up. There's a lot of flashy stuff in some articles that aren't actually theirs, which I'd like to go to the source. Their press releases recently, they had some talks, it looks like, and they've had some financing, hybrid chip design with TSMC. So basically, TSMC is manufacturing, but nothing that really indicates huge catalysts that I could see. And then from the chart perspective, it looks like they're at an all-time high. So much more risk right now. They're at a previous resistance at about $1.30 there. So they're at a previous resistance. They built their market cap to this point, but it does seem to be a little bit of a manipulated stock. You can see some surgences, but you do see a market cap build. I wouldn't touch it personally. Just the net income. You see that income statement on the negative net income. That's why I wouldn't touch it. But when it comes down to their market they're going into, it could potentially be a really great market if they continue to get traction. So it's worth a continued look, but it's not one that I'd personally buy right now. In fact, I would probably advise to stay away from it because it's at an all-time high and the financials don't look favorable. All right, and someone's like, Google. Yeah, we really wanted to touch Google stock for sure. We got to cover Google, I think it was yesterday for a moment, but we have some quantum tech to take a look. And then OPTT to the moon or not, someone says. Let's take a look. Let's take a look, pro. OPTT. Okay, $85 million market cap. It's a 50-cent stock. It's been highly volatile. In the last 5 years, it's had its pumps and its dumps. When you look at the financials, quarterly revenue has been negative about 6 million, 5 million, and increasingly negative incomes quarter and annually. See that increasing negative income. The balance sheet, you do see decreases in total assets as they've risen. On their liability side year over year, they've decreased on their asset side. Quarterly, though, on their balance sheet, they've improved a little bit. They increased their total assets and cut down a little bit of their debt since the beginning of the year, but nothing there financially that would indicate any growth potential as of right now. When it comes to their stock, there's some manipulation happening in the past. And then right now, Ocean Power Technologies, you just see some of these pumps and dumps. Personally, I just wouldn't. See that pump and dump right there? There was a time when everybody was telling me to cover it back in December and January. But I covered it and I shared that the financials didn't really make sense. And so we see it kind of pump and sell off. It's possible that it does something, miraculous, but this is not new for the stock as it's had this type of movement before and been manipulated. So that is the full breakdown for OPTT. And thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. I really do appreciate you all. Really do appreciate the extra. You got Rocket Lab, Google, which I got written down, and Lulu that we will cover in our next live session. And again, if you guys ever want to watch me trade live, tune on into our market live session tomorrow morning. It's happening in 10 hours where we go live and trade. And if you want to join us, it's the second link in the description down below. We are going to be closing lifetime access. Just a friendly reminder. We have lifetime access right now for the live sessions. Pretty soon, we will be closing that as it is a recurring thing where you get my live sessions every morning. So it is a recurring value. And so most likely we will be transitioning back to the subscription model, as we already have subscription model for quarterly and some yearlies. But when it comes down to the future of where we're going, there's going to be some added value and most likely will be subscription. So, if you're fine with that, cool, anytime. But if you want the lifetime access, would encourage you to take action now. Second link below if you want to join us. And I would love to see you in our market session tomorrow morning and be a part of your success. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys